This is the Big Sci-Fi Podcast, the biggest, most fun podcast in the galaxy. We're Adina, Brian, Cris, and Steve, and we love talking all things science fiction. This is Season 4, but our human adventure is just beginning as we gather around our computer consoles to discuss the science fiction of film, television, and literature. Join us on our quest for fun and fascination as we go where no podcast has gone before. Everyone has permission to come aboard the Big Sci-Fi Podcast, but make sure to find your seat fast because we're taking off in 3, 2, 1. Hit it. This podcast is a part of the Trek Geeks Network.
We normally end these podcasts by thanking our listeners and ask them to offer their opinions or suggestions for future episodes. Today, I'd like to recognize someone who did just that. On a recent vacation I had in Europe, I wore my Big Sci-Fi t-shirt, and members of the tour group that I was with were very interested in what we do, what we record, the films and TV shows we covered, and so on. One member of the group, a young gentleman named Michael Hagan, a big fan of movies, suggested we discuss the 1987 film RoboCop. I asked him why this particular film, and he simply said, "It's my favorite movie." I know we did an episode where we listed our own top 10 films of all time, and to have someone say a particular film is their all-time favorite, that's pretty powerful. So, Michael, I dedicate this podcast to you, and without further ado, let's talk about RoboCop. But before we begin, let's have the other members of the Big Sci-Fi Podcast say howdy to our listening audience. We'll go in alphabetical order like always.
Do we have to say it just like that? Oh, no, Adina, no. You got to go for it wholeheartedly. That was such a half-hearted howdy.
I do like mini Pearl. Howdy.
Howdy. Howdy. I know. Hiya. Howdy.
Okay.
I don't even know what I can say anymore.
You've lost the privilege of trying again.
Okay.
I'm going to do it. Ready? Howdy.
Okay. There you go.
That was a little better. Hey, this is Brian for all of you Star Trek and sci-fi nerds out there. I can't wait to get nerdy tonight.
Okay. And our man from the north.
Howdy, folks. It's Cris.
That's really good.
What's that?
I don't know. I've been doing like a southern bit like on and off for the last week or so for no reason. It has been glorious.
Mm.
And howdy all. This is your polecat, Steve Merkin, who's the wrangler for tonight's episode. And so we're going to talk about a film, one of those movies where you say, are the kids not in the room?
Yeah.
Because they better not be. And that movie is RoboCop. And I did come up with some subjects or questions to ask the group, and I hope they've had a chance to think about that. They may have a lot of their own questions about it and definitely opinions, but I'll start off with the very first question. When was the first time you saw the film RoboCop?
I know I saw it close to release, if not in the theater, if not in the theater when it came out. But, if it was rated R, I didn't see it in the theater because I was only 13 or 14 when it came out.
That's
so
good.
Maybe 6 months after on VHS, and we probably rented it, or probably rented it with friends.
I watched this film for the first time yesterday and today.
Wow.
I've never seen anything RoboCop.
Wow.
Yep.
And there's two more movies.
Really?
There's two more movies too.
Yeah,
I will not be watching them.
Okay.
Okay.
You don't have to.
If I want to watch RoboCop,
No, you don't have to because they're not as good.
Yeah.
I think I saw RoboCop too. It's not this movie.
For someone to say that it's their favorite movie, that's a really powerful thing to say. Did he tell you why?
He just loves it. And even his father, because he was traveling with his mom and dad, and this guy, he's like in his early 20s. Even his dad said, "Oh yeah, it's his favorite movie. He loves it more than anything." Huh. So I never really had a chance to quiz him on that, but I do remember when I saw it in the theater, And we had seen it after it had been released for, I don't know, we saw about a week or so after it was released. And this guy stands up in the theater during the sequence where he's fighting crime as he's going out on his first mission. And the guy stands up in the theater and he goes, "Go, Robo, go get him, Robo." And I'm going, whoa, this guy's seen the movie and it means something to him. So we watched the movie and I can see, how can enlist that kind of maybe passion in someone in their love for this particular movie, or the way the character was portrayed, the acting by Peter Weller as RoboCop.
So can I share the audience, share some Fox lore? Because I don't know if this is 100% true, but this is a story my mom told me.
This is a new part of tonight's show, the Fox lore. Let's go with
Fox
that.
lore. So my mom was telling me that, I guess, whenever the movie came out to VHS, my dad was taking care of my cousin Manny, who at the time would have been maybe 10 or 11, and he rented RoboCop.
Wow.
And my mom was not impressed. I actually need to ask him about this because I want to talk to his parents and be like, do you guys remember this? Hearing about that Manny was watching RoboCop? Because it's just like, watching it now, I'm like, I enjoyed it, but there were some parts where I'm like, I'm actually genuinely disturbed.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and here's the funny thing. When I was a kid, my parents forbid us from seeing the movie Psycho or The Birds by Alfred Hitchcock because they were exceptionally violent and they didn't want to subject us to such a horror, such horror films. And by this standards, that's like, G-rated.
So my parents weren't completely permissive. They weren't strictly like monitoring, especially when I became a teenager. So
you said that with a little grin, Adina. Just so.
I did?
Yeah.
I don't know why I did that.
They weren't monitoring as
I'm just
together.
remembering the things that I watched that I probably wouldn't. I probably monitor what my kids watch a little bit more closely. Right. But then again, I feel like these days there's a lot more to. It's easier, to cross a line. If I don't want, because I wasn't, I watched this at 13, 14, and I watched other things that I wouldn't let my own kids watch. And I wasn't scarred for life or anything by them.
No,
it's even though it's disturbing, I don't know.
It's
and this
weird.
was disturbing.
Like, this is what I'm trying to figure out, because I don't generally mind violence in movies. Like, I love the John Wick franchise, which is just all John Wick killing people left and right,
so
doing his thing.
You're a very desensitized individual is what you're saying.
I guess that's a fair
I'm just
statement. I will capitulate to that.
Okay,
I will not argue.
But
for some reason, I've been trying to rack my head around this all week. Like, why does the violence in John Wick or any other movie that I've seen not faze me? But the violence in RoboCop, there's something I'm trying to figure it out. Is it the casualness? Is it the blood? Like, for me, it was the dude, which we got to just probably the worst. If we always go back to Trek, red shirts, that poor dude who was just like, I'm going to get up in the morning. I'm going to go to work. I'm going to be a team player. Boss wants me to be part of the presentation. I'll pick up the gun. I'll do the thing. And then he dies. And then what does the chairman say? I'm disappointed in you,
Bob.
Who's Bob?
Or not Bob? With Dick,
Captain Jellicoe. What's his name?
Yeah, right.
Ronnie Cox.
Ronnie Cox always gets to play a guy you just don't like very well, and he does it very, very well. And poor Kenny, and it's like, what's that line from South Park? Oh my God, they've killed Kenny. It's like, poor guy.
Yeah.
Well, and the shotgun holes in the dude that were like 8 inches wide, and you saw flesh flying and blood. This movie was way more gratuitous than I ever imagined it would be. I was totally shocked by the gratuitous violence in RoboCop.
Well, because it became iconic. RoboCop was a very iconic film afterwards. And so if you hadn't seen it, you probably only know the iconicness.
Yeah.
Iconicness.
I've heard about like the violence, like the one dude who, he's a terrible person who gets, certain parts blown off. I knew about that. And I was like, for a long time, I didn't want to watch it. The only reason I watched it was because, okay, finally I'll watch it because we're doing it for Big Sci-Fi. But I'm always been like, I don't know, what I've been hearing about it, it's too much. Even though it's cool because it's a RoboCop. Which is a cool thing.
I just must have been totally naive to, I mean, because I wasn't allowed to watch it in '87 for one thing as a kid. But then I have never investigated it. I've never read anything about it. I've never heard anything. I know there were multiple films, I think even a TV series. And so what I saw, of course, in the trailers for movies like that, they don't show all the blood and gut stuff or anything like that. So I just kind of walked into it, and when that guy got blown up in the office, I was like, holy crap.
Yeah.
Nuggets, Batman. Like, that was, whoa. And then I was like, okay, that's it. And then throughout the whole film, like, that's how they portrayed all the bullets, was just extravagance.
The toxic waste thing, I didn't know. Like, I don't remember hearing about. So when that happened, I was like, "Oof, okay." I did not need to see that.
The makeup in this film was really good. I mean, even with the stop motion animatronics of the one machine that was
the ED
obvious
209,
obvious, and stop motion doesn't quite hold up to today's standards. I thought RoboCop still looked stinking cool, though.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And Peter Weller's makeup when he takes his helmet off, how they made it look attached. I mean, the makeup in this film was really good.
Yeah, On the violence level, what came about was the film was originally rated X.
Was it really?
Yes, it was originally rated X because of the violence level. And so the editors came in and told Verhoeven, we have to cut it back. And he said, but audiences love the X-rated version. They actually found it more funny than when they trimmed it down for an R rating, which is what we got. So actually the violence against poor Murphy when he shot to pieces was even greater. And here's where Verhoeven is kind of interesting.
What did they tone it down?
Well, but again, I think there's something to that. There's a level of it becomes so over the top. It is just comical. I mean, we laugh at, oh, they killed Kenny. We laugh. There's like there's a level where the violence is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
And so, a comedic level.
And so Verhoeven complained, saying that when you cut it back to people weren't laughing as much. Well, I know he's filled satire into these films, and that's what he was going for. But, when poor Peter Weller's hand is blown off, you go, oh, my God. And that's just the beginning of what they do to the poor guy. The fact that he survives is amazing at all. To be able to become.
I thought he actually died. They just brought him back to life somehow. Or was he still?
No, remember, he's lying in the bed, and remember they show he's looking up. He's just got that dead stare as he's lying on the operating table, and he's going through his memory of what happened.
Oh, so I thought it was that they just got him. He was dead. They put the heart in him, and then they restarted him somehow using that crazy heart technology.
Yes, the Jarvik, and that's so funny because the commercial for the Jarvik heart replacement. Hey, and there really was the Jarvik 7 was the first mechanical heart that was ever used in a person. So I'm going, really? That brought that into play.
I gotta say, I was naive too. I didn't expect. I thought this was more of a serious film. Like I didn't expect it to be so tongue in cheek, and everybody. So, everybody was stereotyped and overplayed. The businessmen, the board of the company, the police were overplayed. The bad guys were overplayed and overacted. And they're just cliche after cliche after cliche in this film. So for me, I guess that's part of why I was so oh, this is a different film than I was expecting. I thought it was a little more serious. So I'm sure we'll talk about.
And let's get into really a simple question. Do we consider this to be a sci-fi film, an action film, a crime film? Is it just an amalgamation of so many different genres into one particular movie? What do you think, folks?
Oh, it's definitely like a science fiction and action, like an action sci-fi.
Definitely. Yeah. Agreed. It's like it's a combination of all those genres for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I guess for me, I was expecting like the sci-fi part of it was in there a little bit, but after watching it, I was expecting more of a police drama
Right.
than what the film actually is. So it's definitely action sci-fi and yeah.
Okay. All right. And what did you guys think of Peter Weller's acting in the film?
I thought he did a good job, like in terms of just being, like I liked his the movements that he would make felt very robotic. Like you could actually, I was trying to imagine myself, okay, what would I be like if I were in a room? I'm just hanging out with some people. We're in the elevator, and then Peter Weller as RoboCop comes in. It's like he did a really good job of making him feel terrifying while still giving a little bit like, hey, I'm human. Right. I'm remembering a lot of my past.
It said there on the liner notes that when you watch it on Prime Ticket, they have like trivia bits.
Oh, yeah, that was cool.
And he spent a lot of time with a professional mime to get those motions of being more robotic than human steps, so that when he goes and he turns his head first and then his body rotates, because as a robot he's looking, his point of view, and then he rotates the body, and the movements of the arms and everything. But I did, I liked the little tidbit about the spinning of the gun, so that Nancy Allen's character could go, wait a minute, is that who I think it is? And that allowed her to become the person who saves him. His.
Well, I think too. I mean, you asked about his acting. I think it was on par with everyone else in the film, but everything was kind of overacted.
Yes.
And it was obviously intentional. The director was going for something. And I did think, though, the most powerful moment was when he first takes off his mask or his helmet, and we kind of see the face. And we see him start to really imagine, remember his family.
Or when he goes through his home, his empty home, and he's reliving these moments in his memory of life, the life he had, which is the tragic portion of the story, is that, it's, I mean, I don't want to make a comparison, but it's like the sequence in the Men in Black when you just see Tommy
Lee Jones.
Yeah, Tommy Lee Jones. Yeah. When he's just zooming in from a satellite of his wife and he sees her.
Yeah.
But he knows that he can't be with her because he's officially dead. And you can just see the look on his face of sorrow. And it was like as he's walking through the house, he's reliving all his memories and knowing that he can't go back to that. Because he is officially deceased and his life is gone. So that was an emotional part of the film. But again, they definitely did an 80s style where the corporate guys were so bad.
Yeah,
like Wall Street, the movie Wall Street that came out in the 80s.
I need to see that again
with Charlie Sheen, where the corporations are just horrible and greed is what drives everything, and you portray everything in old Detroit as being so bad.
Yeah, like just awful.
So,
like
I don't remember. Was Detroit really in bad shape at that time?
During the 80s, when it came out of the oil embargo and the auto industry was going through a major change from emissions to non-emission cars and so on, Detroit was in bad shape. Chrysler during the 80s filed for bankruptcy, if you may or may not remember.
Oh my goodness.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah, and and Lee Iacocca had to go to the government and borrow 1.5 billion from the U.S. government, which he paid all back to save Chrysler Corporation from going out of business. So there were dark times in the 80s with the auto industry, and in particular Detroit, that they were suffering pretty bad.
Do they get? Because I read on Wikipedia that it's 2046, but do they ever say on screen what year it is? Because that was like bugging me for a while.
That's a good question. I don't recall.
I don't think so.
No. I think it's open-ended because the cars I mean, you're looking at 1980s Ford Tauruses as police cars, and then you have the probably the ugliest car ever built, the SUX 6000.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God! Did they purposely make that the ugliest car since the? I have to go back to the 1970s. The AMC Matador. Oh, that was an ugly car.
So yeah, I'd rather drive the Chitty Chitty Bang Bang car than that car they had in
Chitty Bang Bang. It's a great. I was just thinking about that the other day. It's one of my favorite films. So
me too.
But they obviously, had a lot of hooks in there to tell you it's several decades at least into the future. With the homes, the kind of smart homey stuff, and even the things that they were doing, technology with the computers. RoboCop itself, but then some of the other computer technologies like the facial recognition that exists today did not exist then.
Ronnie Cox's phone system on the table seemed like, okay, that's like a 1980s version of what the future is. So it's like definitely futuristic. I just always like to know, okay, exactly what year are we in? I like to know all that information.
Sure. Sometimes they don't want to pin themselves down, like ambiguous. Even the original TOS series of Star Trek, they did not state originally what year it was because Roddenberry wanted to leave it ambiguous as to what part of the future was going to be. And then they finally got around to establishing that. Let's see. So what did you think of the director's filming style? Now, keep in mind that as a director, some of the other films he's made were Basic Instinct and Showgirls and Total Recall. And
definitely Total Recall. It's like
Brian's all-time favorite, Starship Troopers. He's shaking his head like, oh my God, I'm having PTSD flashback to Starship Troopers. But you can just see that he has a pattern of violence in his film. And
sure.
And definitely in Total Recall.
Total Recall is awesome. I love Total Recall.
It's violent, but it's less. Yeah. I felt like it was less
violent than this, for sure.
I don't know.
And more Trek people. What's her name? Sonia Gomez was a character in Total Recall, and I was like, wait, what? That's weird. But yeah, there's definitely a style. But I have to say, though, I do like, even though I'd buy that for a dollar guy.
I love that line.
Is creepy.
I love that guy. I'm sorry.
So I was going to say, I just love the in-universe that he goes to he takes the time to make in-universe ads. So it's like, if you're not in Detroit, you're not RoboCop, you're not dealing with any of that. It's like you sort of get the idea of, okay, what does the average person do? What's their life like? Because it's like, you could see the ads. They have like the Battleship game, Nukem, and it's just so that stuff was kind of fun.
I love the I love that style of adding the commercials in to get like the world. But I have to bring this up. So I don't know if you just noticed that I've been looking at something on I've been trying to. I was going to do a deeper dive into this earlier today. I completely forgot until we were talking about this. Okay. There's that one scene where one of the bad guys is at that gas station. He's robbing the gas station. Okay.
Right. Emilio. He's a really crazy guy. Yeah.
So the poor kid at the gas station, the bad guy, he's like, hey, are you, nerd, you're in college, whatever. What are you reading? And the book that the kid holds up, Plane Geometry. I'm like, I know that book.
Oh, really?
Well, and the thing is, I'm trying to think if I still have it. I used to have it. And I was going to see if I still had it and bring it. Now, the thing is, I think 5 or 6 years ago, I did a little book purge. And I got rid of a third of my book collection because I felt it was time for a massive purge. And I think that went in the purge.
John Billingsley is crying right now. John is crying to know that you gave away books.
Yeah, well, I gave them to a good place. They went to this wonderful used bookstore. But no, I needed, I don't know what possessed me to do it, but I just had the need to do a book purge. I regret half of it. I don't regret, I only regret half the purge. But yeah, I think. So I just had, Frank take some pictures of a couple of my bookshelves to see if I could identify it. But I need to go like look, but I think I gave it away. And before when I did the book purge, I took pictures of like the stacks of books that I was giving away. And I think I see it in one of the stacks. I don't know, but I had Plane Geometry. I had that book. I used that book. I studied from that book.
So do we know if that gas station guy, did he survive? Because he ran, but was he far enough away from that explosion?
I was wondering the same thing.
I was really worried about that.
But it was interesting. They always talk about the big moment where there's the giant explosion and the main characters are in front. And of course, there you have it in that scene. You've got the explosion with the fireball and the main characters in front and so on. And again, the character of Clarence Brodick.
Oh, was that
Brodick? That was the character from the 70s show, the dad from 70s show. He's evil.
He's evil.
But he's evil with a cool style. Guns.
That part was cool. What was it? Yeah, there was a really good line there. The guns. What was the rest of that line? The guns.
Yeah, he's with all the coke dealers, and he goes guns. So he's always got a smile on his face, and you're supposed to hate him, but there's something about that 80s coolness that was in there. It was
I still hate him.
Like, I'll tell you, I was relieved when that trivia came up that the secretary that he was being really creepy with was his wife. I was like, oh, thank you, this is his real wife, because that scene
in real life, it's his wife.
Yes, it was his actual wife. Yes. That's the great thing about watching on a Prime Ticket. You get to see those little trivia pieces, and oh, that's cool. I didn't know that, or they point out like when he's going to 360 Primrose Street, and then they go by the street sign, it says 3000 or 6, so they made these are little minor boo-boos in the film that they always seem to pick up, but that's kind of nice watching it on Prime Ticket. You get that on a computer.
But he's a weird guy where it's like he's kind of cool in like the guns, like that line's kind of fun, but then he's also just like, whoa, I am not unhappy that you're dead. Like at the very end, I'm like, crazy. I was relieved.
Yes.
He was a little too much, I think.
Well, and like you said, as
but
Brian
that's like
said,
the point of
everything is over the top in this film. Everything's over the top. Brian, I had this question directed to you. What did you think of the soundtrack?
The main theme isn't bad. It's memorable. But at the same time, it's a little over the top, which had to be intentional like everything else. So I felt like the main theme, especially when RoboCop would do anything fantastic.
Dun 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 dun.
Like that was pretty good.
I enjoyed that part for sure.
But the rest of the music for this film, I would probably never just put this soundtrack on and listen to it. But I might pull out the RoboCop theme for fun. But yeah, I thought you were going to ask that question because it was, sometimes the best themes and melodies are beautiful, or they're just catchy in the right way. They don't have to be real complicated. So that was the case with this.
Yeah, and I looked him up, and he has done music for a number of movies and TV shows. Yeah, and he has worked with Verhoeven on other films. So he's more than just like a one-hit wonder. He's done that in TV shows and things like that. So, yeah. What else about this crazy film?
We haven't talked about the
actual RoboCop,
the deep philosophical questions brought up by the whole. Okay, a guy dies. He's essentially signed away his dead body, which we like donate our bodies to science, and that's something that happens. And then so they're able to reanimate him. So is he a person, or is he now property?
He is, to the company, he's their property, but he is obviously still retained somehow his humanity.
Well, he's retained some memories. Has he retained his humanity?
Yeah.
Well,
has
he shows that at the end when, and again, when he takes off the headgear and he's exposed himself out to Nancy Allen's character. And you can see that there is that.
My name is Murphy.
Well,
yes,
okay,
yes. At the very end, he announces that.
Is anything can say that. It doesn't make him necessarily, I can program a robot to say that, or I can program a robot to self-discover, or a robot could accidentally say whatever it wants. It doesn't mean it's true.
I think
what
we
do
are.
You think it?
Go ahead,
and now
Cris.
I'm not revealing what I actually believe here. I'm just
okay,
trying to put forth the argument just to
your criteria is. What's the threshold for you to go? Okay, yeah, he's absolutely human.
I don't know.
I think they wanted us to believe with that statement at the end that he still retained some level of humanity.
That he was a person, he wasn't just a machine.
Yeah, I think that's what they wanted us to cheer about at the end of the film.
Sure, I will grant you that was the intent.
So therefore, the answer is yes. He does retain.
Okay, so then yes, if that was the intent in the movie, then fine. But I guess that the philosophically is still like real. So what person is dead, but then by some mechanism, some technological mechanism, a portion of them is reanimated, and that portion that's reanimated, okay, so they are able to access their memories. Well, but they were dead, and without being part of this cyborg thing, they would still be dead.
Okay.
So what are they?
Well, okay, if you recall that Nancy Allen brings the baby food, for him to eat because he requires this type of goo, like baby food, to run his organics, as they said in the film.
Okay.
So there was a portion of within him that was still a human material, which you assume that they have the face and the brain is still there. So if the brain never died, even though the body did, and the brain still was alive, they were able to keep the brain alive and insert it into him. We're talking Frankenstein here, kids.
Definitely Frankenstein.
You mean Frankenstein's monster?
Right. Then we have person. We have the person because the brain is who we are.
Well, but we don't really. Okay, but he was dead. And the fact that they were able to
went through his brain.
Yeah, they were able to reanimate enough that he was able to unintentionally access his prior memories. I mean, that doesn't mean his brain is not necessarily fully functioning, but a portion of memory recall still exists unintentionally.
Yeah, well, that's clever.
That's why they show the whole, when he's sitting in his chair and he has his dream sequence and he wakes up and he's going through the gyration because he's remembering about his own death or how he was killed. And that's when he decides he's going to go and hunt down the criminals that killed him. So something is there. Something unintentional. It went wrong. It failed the test. Do you know any neurologists we could get on the show to explain to us about how long the brain survives after the body has
not
died?
long. No, not long. That's a whole, when you're deprived of oxygen, your brain is deprived of oxygen, it does not last long, which is one of the reasons why you'll more often have people that are brain dead. Their body will still function, but they're brain dead. Brain needs oxygen. Brain does not survive long without oxygen.
Whenever you say this, I gotta say it. You know what it was? Okay, somebody do the Dr. McCoy line. I can't. It's
worse than that. He's dead, Jim. Dead, Jim. Dead, Jim. It's worse than that. He's dead, Jim. Dead.
Oh, you're thinking of the Stone Trek song?
I'm saying about the Star Trekking song.
Star Trekking. Because they did like the Stone Trek version animated to that. But no, I'm thinking of Spock's brain where it's like he's lives, but his brain is gone. His brain. That's all.
Okay.
Yes.
But that's not a fair comparison because they
it's not a comparison. It's just
his brain and put it somewhere else, and that's a different.
It's just you
thing.
Can't talk about brains
without
me
Spock
not
brain.
thinking about Spock's brain. That's all.
And still, the worst episode probably of all time of Star Trek. I'm sorry,
so much
kids. It's really the worst.
I always enjoy it, but. But yeah, I don't know because what's the criteria for you to say that okay, he is alive, he is still human for the most part?
I don't know. I don't necessarily have an answer. That's why I'm posing the question. But from a tech, if I was the engineers responsible for this thing, okay, and my goal is to create this thing using organic material, I don't want him to access his memories. Yeah, I don't, or I'm not expecting that. And so, like, again, from my point of view, this thing has completely malfunctioned, and you don't let a malfunctioning machine just kind of walk out.
Yeah, well, so two things. I always thought like that whole like idea of him malfunctioning is just supposed to be like the power of the human mind that you can never truly get rid of, like who someone is. But I have to say though, like I saw the trailer. I haven't watched the 2014 one, but I saw the trailer and I was like, I wanted to see like, okay, how does it compare? And in that one, it seems like it's very much like, hey, we still believe that Peter Weller's character, like Murphy, is still human. Let's call his wife. Let's talk about this procedure. Whereas in original RoboCop, it's just like, oh, take off his arm. You sure? It's a perfectly good arm.
Yeah,
remove
very
him.
callous
He's dead
about getting rid of the
anyways. We
arm.
can do whatever we want now.
Right.
Mhm.
Now,
Which I'm like, is just so like, whoa.
well, but again,
A
if
bit
we
much.
were to donate our bodies to science after we die, there's a lot of things that can happen to it. It isn't just, here's my eyes to give somebody their sight. Here's my lungs so they can, like it can be other. I mean, like people are used as cadavers in medical school, and there's all kinds of other crazy things that happen. And that's what I believe happens, is that the people who are utilizing your body might be a little bit more callous than what we would necessarily want.
And that's how they portrayed that with the mad scientists, just going through and just turning out. They're having a party. It's New Year's Eve. And they're like, hey, Robo. And he's just sitting there in his chair as they're developing him. Now, the other thing is that, yes, he may have retained his brain and he may have retained his good looks when he took off his helmet, but he still had programming. And there were 3 directives. And they actually said in the trivia that they were based on the 3 laws of robotics, his 3 directives, and then, of course, the 4th directive. So there was some type of computer processor in there that could override whatever his brain wanted to do against Dick Jones when he encountered him, where he wanted to arrest him. And of course, well, he's an employee of the company. He's a director, and you can't hurt any of those people until, of course, he gets fired.
That was the best. I had forgot that. I had remembered a few things about the movie before I rewatched it this week. That was not one of them. That was probably the highlight of like rewatching it. It was that one little teeny bit.
Yeah. Yes. It's Dick. You're fired. Oh, thank you.
Cool. And then just sits out the window. Like,
he should have never been able to fall out of that window like that at the end of the film.
It was just dramatic. See, now they could have saved the line from earlier in the film where the guy says, "Can you fly, Bobby?" And he could have said that to Dick. "Can you fly, Dick?" Wow, out the window he goes.
Been cool if he had done that. But yeah, I don't know, because like the thing is I found interesting is, again, like it's like so much excessive force. Like I think back to like Iron Man 1, where Iron Man comes into a building and he's able to disarm everybody, save the hostages, like destroy the guns, but it's not like it's more pinpointy. Like he could have just disarmed the gun instead of like, it's not even like, oh, we're going to arrest this guy. It's no, we're going to shoot this guy out of a window instantly right after you're fired. It's like, all right, it's like that's a little too aggressive, even though it's a cool line.
Yes. But it's just, but also the callousness of, you're fired. I mean, that's just like, that's the worst thing you're going to do to this guy who's so evil and has caused so much destruction.
How did the what's his name realize? Did he say you're fired because he knew that would enable RoboCop to kill him?
That's what I thought. That's what I thought the thing was. That he knew.
I think so too, because there's no other reason for him to say it in that moment. In that moment, that would have been kind of, I think he kind of knew that that's what he was doing because he just mentioned, hey, you can't do it, because I still work for the company.
Yeah, well, we don't know because Dick Jones's character had done a lot of things on his own. Would he have told the old man, and that's the name of the character they gave for the head of the corporation, would he have actually revealed to the old man his nefarious plan of protecting him and other executives of the company?
Oh, even if he hadn't before, he said it right in that scene.
Right. Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So even if he hadn't told him ever before, right there he told him. So the guy knew. So did the guy have the wherewithal of mind while being, held at gunpoint to actually put two and two together? Good
point.
Yeah, I always got the impression that it was just like he knew that was the safety. So it's like, oh, you're fired, and then he's like, okay, he knows that RoboCop's just going to shoot him.
And thinking back to the films of Dirty Harry with Clint Eastwood, the big gun is so important. And so RoboCop has probably the biggest handgun you've ever had in your entire 100 bullets it can fire, and it looks like it was
there's no way 100 bullets fit inside that thing.
I know. Well, I thought it was coming out
future
of
bullets.
Yeah. Yeah, there was
Say that again. I didn't quite catch.
I said they're future bullets.
Future bullets.
So just because it's the future,
tech,
they can.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Future fantasy tech.
I buy that. Yeah.
I could buy it for $1. I hope.
Jeez, like that was such a weird, and everybody found it hysterical. Not like the lead spit creepy. Like, what did that guy? I want to know the backstory of this guy. Like, what does he do? What's the show about beyond I'd buy that for $1? But I guess that's the genius of it, that there is no story.
It's bad variety show, whatever it is. And the young ladies are in a less than professional sort of activity or whatever it might be. And he's, slapping them with whipped cream or whatever. I don't know.
That was the thing I found strange too, that I wasn't expecting, was like when I keep calling him Peter Weller, but when Murphy comes in and he's walking through the change room, and I'm like, so all the women are just changing too with the guys? It's like that bit in Lower Decks where they all just shower together. And I'm like, that was weird.
That was a bit that was also in Brian's favorite film, Starship Troopers,
they did
where
the same
everybody
thing
showers together, and it's like no big deal because we're all equal in.
Well,
they
do in Lower Decks.
Yeah, well, that's what
that's
Lower Decks.
That's
why
exactly.
I mentioned that. Yeah, because I was like, oh, surprised by that.
So nudity is not like oh my goodness, it's
it was just like,
we're all
this
together.
is a random place for nudity.
Mm-hmm.
Just him getting the rundown of like, hey, welcome to this precinct. It's going to be a rough day. Good luck. Here's your towel.
And good, and go shower with everybody else. Well, Verhoeven wants some sexuality. He had that in Showgirls. He had that in Basic Instinct. So I guess he had to have something there in the film.
There's a reason why I hated this film.
Okay, what are your top three reasons?
I'm sitting here listening to you folks talking about this film, and I'm trying to find something I like about it besides RoboCop's, just the RoboCop himself is cool looking, and the concept of RoboCop is cool. But what I'm really thinking about while you guys are talking about the film is, would I rather watch this again or Starship Troopers?
Oh boy.
And
I'm waiting to hear this answer.
That I'd rather sit down at the toilet without any toilet paper.
Wow.
So we have to
and that's a reference to how I felt about Starship Troopers way back when, but I'm really disappointed by this film, guys.
This is definitely it's not one of my favorite either.
No.
Right.
I appreciate the iconicism of RoboCop, because I feel like it was an iconic film, but it's not a good film.
Yeah, see, I think it's hard because if you're watching it from that it's really hard with some of the older movies because you have to take into account what was the society, what was the time like. Whereas I feel like now we're much more aware of police brutality. And so watching it, where it's just like, I get the one dude who was, up to no good with those women, shall we say that. and I get that. Okay, you got to kill them, but I just feel like it's just like I even felt bad for the bad guys. It's like they don't. There's not even like just arrest me, let me go to jail. It's like they don't have a chance. It's like it's a little too
cop
brutal.
killers.
Well, I know they were cop killers.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to. That's what I mean when I say like I understand that they're bad people.
Also,
it just seems like.
But also they're
like
the legal system. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You're telling me that RoboCop can't just disarm and send out like not to do an Inspector Gadget like handcuffs, but like just target the weapons, disarm them, and then run really fast, handcuff them, take them to prison. It just feels like there's no.
Well, that wasn't the director's vision. Obviously, the director was going for gratuitous and
that's what I mean.
Tongue in cheek and all that. So I guess again for me, a big part of it is I was expecting more of a serious police drama with the sci-fi mixed in there. I wasn't expecting the tongue in cheek. I wasn't expecting the over the top violent nature of the film. So for me, it was all one big surprise. Now, again, I get why. No, I don't. I don't understand why they ever made a sequel to this film.
Because it did well at the theater.
It had elements.
It did well at the theater.
I guess so.
I like Ronnie Cox. I'll never get not like him just being Ronnie Cox. He's always fun. I sort of like Clarence in parts when he's at the cocaine warehouse. He's actually seems like he's crazy, but he's kind of fun. But then he goes to like creepy. Like it's hard for me because cocaine warehouse Clarence is the Clarence I like, but like shooting the heck out of Murphy Clarence and then hitting on and then just generally being weird is like, okay, that's too much. So I don't know. I have very mixed feelings about it. I'm still trying to process my thoughts for it.
I think for me it's just I'm more in I've been taken aback in surprise by the actual film. I was just totally naive about this film. And so I think that's a big part of it. It just wasn't what I was expecting. And so I think I've stated before, like gratuitous violence. Oh, come on,
Well, it matters if you're expecting it or not. Like John Wick, you're expecting.
And everybody in John Wick. Yeah. I was going to say, I feel like everybody in John Wick, the thing for me, and I don't know what it is because I've been trying to like think about this all week. Like, why do I not mind John Wick violence? And I actually love the way they choreograph their fights and I like all that action. Whereas this felt too much. One of the things I think, okay, it was a little too casual, like the boardroom guy that gets killed. Like the fact that nobody seemed afraid. If I'm there in the boardroom, I'm like, you know what, guys? It's been fun. I'm leaving. I don't care what the pension is. I don't care what the benefits are. I'm leaving. And it just seemed like that's so casual. Whereas John Wick, I felt like everybody in that world has signed a contract in a way that they're like, hey, we're all assassins. We're all part of this. We're all here. We all know we're going to die eventually. It seems like everybody's all on the same page.
Okay.
So but
it's
again,
a
even
one
that
emotional note for like everybody. It's like the same emotion.
Yeah.
There's no real.
That's a good way to.
I've been for the last, I don't know how long it's been, racking my brain about where is this company called Henchman Incorporated? Because in every one of these types of films, this one, but whatever, there are people that are just there to be killed. And they're always henchmen. They're always associates or whatever. Do they go to them and they sign up and say, hi, I'd like to be a henchman. What's your 401k? Oh, it's fantastic. And our health insurance, it's the best. If you survive your first mission, which you're probably not going to, and you're probably going to be shot as random. I mean, come on. I know stormtroopers are clones, but come on. They're still living creatures. And they seem to be target practice only. So, we get a little desensitized. And I guess, like you said, when the John Wick films, he gets to meter out his violence. And I've never seen them. I just know of them. He meter outs his violence with what? Vengeance, with morality, with he's trying, that sort of qualifies the death that he does.
Well, it's sort of it's not ethical in the sense of like it's not okay that he's killing those people, but it's within that underground society. They're all playing by the same rules, even though he breaks a key rule, which is why all of the stuff happens in the later films. But they all sort of signed up. And I picture, and this is why this is what I've always wondered. Like you talk about Henchmen Incorporated, I wonder, it's like, hey, I want to be an assassin. How do I apply for this? So everybody who's part of it is like they know that they could eventually die, and they're all playing by the same rules. Whereas this, it just felt I don't know. I'm still racking my head around this, but Steve, I want to see Henchmen Incorporated. I think that'd be hysterical.
I want to know where this company is because
make that movie.
We have to make like.
I just had an epiphany, Steve.
What's that, sir?
The Gru movies, the Minion movies.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I love that so
they
much.
have the bank for the villains or whatever they called it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like there you go. That's
okay.
That's what they do. It should be a combination of that. That concept from the Minion movies.
Yeah, we'll combine we'll do something like that. We have to find a who, because it's just, I mean, even going back to James Bond movies and from the 60s and stuff, there's always
always the henchmen
that just get wiped out, you know. I mean, I don't know. It just doesn't seem like it's you have a lot of job of potential as a henchman.
So I have to bring up our other favorite movie because we've already mentioned Starship Troopers.
Okay.
How does this compare to our all-time favorite big sci-fi movie, Moonfall?
Oh gosh,
Moonfall.
Yelling into my.
I would
feel like this is like a classic.
Again before watching this.
Like people
I'd watch this before I'd watch Moonfall.
Really? Oh,
yeah.
Not me.
Because the thing is, this at least has the redeeming thing where you do have that philosophical element of what the heck is RoboCop, you know, and physics makes a lot more sense in this movie, you know, than
I kind of want to watch the other ones. I'm debating because I also want to know how RoboCop's story ends. And so I care about the character.
I
agree.
And I
with
like
that.
some of the characters.
Yeah. Okay, so let's say, Brian, I'm giving you this movie. Yes. You can edit out all the graphic violence, have it shot from, they're shooting Peter Weller. You just see his face. You don't see all the violence against him. The other things too. If you could delete the excessive, gratuitous violence in the film, would it be a better movie? Would you then feel differently about it? Because if that's the only mitigating factor is the violence level, then actually it is a good movie because otherwise it works.
I think you'd have to take. I think I just didn't enjoy the over the topness of every character either.
Okay.
Okay. I'm just not into those types of films too. That's part of it. It's just personal taste too.
No, and that's truly what it comes to.
Yeah. So. I mean, I think it'd be better, but I think I'd still be annoyed at everything else too,
Okay.
And I agree with Cris 100%. I did care about RoboCop / Murphy, I did. I wanted to see his humanity break through at least a little bit, I wanted him to show sensitivity and friendship with his partner in the film, I wanted those things, and so in that way it was satisfying. And I think there's one other aspect we need to talk about if we don't.
Sure, go ahead, please.
Star Trek.
We need to talk about the plethora of Star Trek people in this film, and if we caught them all.
I'm trying to think of everybody because the one that stuck out to me was
Jellicoe.
Jellicoe was the obvious. There's a bunch of the obvious ones, but the guy from Search for
Miguel
Spock,
Ferrer, Miguel Ferrer, who played Bob Morton, he was in Star Trek as well.
He had the cool line where it's almost all speeds available, and he was going to be like, "Yeah, we're going to go to warp. We're going to go to transwarp." And so it's just cool to see him, but it's just there's so many people you have. Of course, you got Ronnie Cox, you have Kurtwood Smith,
Peter Weller.
Weller,
who
definitely plays, which I think is funny that he plays in Into Darkness. He plays a Ronnie Cox style villain, only it's Peter Weller.
Or he was also the head of the Earth First people in the last two episodes, or the second
Another
to the last two
character
episodes of Enterprise.
That Ronnie Cox could have played. I feel
yes, he could have done that really well instead of Peter Weller, but Peter Weller
killed it with both roles for me. So that was cool.
Ray Weiss.
Like I'm missing somebody.
One of the bad guys, Ray Weiss, played in one of my favorite Next Gen episodes, Who Watches the Watchers? The Picard! The Picard has spoken!
Right, that's why it looks so familiar.
Remember?
I know the episode. I forgot that it was him.
So, but again, this is during a time when there was a lot of, these actors were being used for various different movies, TV shows,
1987.
Whatever.
Yeah, and all of that, those Trek that were, it was all in that time period. I wonder if some of that has to do with the casting people and just the fact that they work with people or they put people together that they combination of know that they work well together or have chemistry together. I don't, I wonder if some of that is the casting. Like, do we know if the casting person here was a Star Trek casting person? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Can I air like one grievance with this is more of an Amazon Prime issue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But when they brought up Miguel and you click on his thing and they see what he's noted for, they didn't mention NCIS LA because he showed up there for like good 5 or 6 seasons before he passed. So I thought they should at least acknowledge it. That's all.
Okay.
I'm gonna Google. Because I'm trying to see if we're missing anyone.
I don't think Nancy Allen was in any of the Star Trek films who played his partner. And
I don't think Lisa Gibbons was in anything Star Trek either that I'm aware of.
No. No, nor Mario Machado. He was definitely a newsman in the LA marketplace. That's why they chose him. I think was
John Glover ever in anything Star Trek?
John Glover.
And Dan O'Harity.
Oh yeah, John Glover. He played the I call him the stupid trill, which is mean. But he played the person that was trying to get the Dax symbiote because he wanted to be a host.
You're absolutely right. Great job, Chris. Great job.
Chris is using the internet to good as opposed to evil. That's nice.
Who did he play in this? I don't remember him showing up because whenever he shows up, I'm always like, he's the guy with the really big hairdo in Good Wife. He played like a lawyer that showed up, and he had like massive
never watched that show.
Amounts of hair.
All right.
Okay, I take back what I said about the casting director stuff. I found the casting director details on IMDb for RoboCop, and neither of the two people have any Star Trek ties.
Then they were just, they're just looking at actors who were popular at the time that were, bankable, supporting actors, that made the rounds.
But who did he play? I got to Google John Glover and see who he played in RoboCop because I do not remember him showing up.
Okay.
Oh, and then what's his name? Rega Danar from TNG. He shows up in the second RoboCop. I saw the trailer. I'm like, oh, that's Rega whatever his name is. Danar. Somebody correct me, please.
All right.
And apologies to everybody who's listening right now.
That's quite all right. Everyone is listening.
Oh, hey, okay. There is a article on giantfreakingrobot.com.
Giant freaking robot.
Oh, you've never heard? They do
I'm sorry.
all different like movies and culture and stuff like that.
Giant freaking
But there is an article from last year. The RoboCop cast is everywhere in Star Trek. See who they played, and they have this is from a year ago. And
okay,
really?
They've got like tons of people.
Okay,
actually, I don't even know if they have everybody here in this article.
Okay,
but they have a bunch.
Folks, if you have a moment, giant freaking IN no G robot.com. Okay, folks.
Please, just pull it up because
you can do that on your want. Have fun.
Let's see.
I'm
scrolling. I'm still interacting with the audience.
Notice how we always say who was a Star Trek actor and a movie. Never Star Wars. Sorry, kids. There's no tie in there.
There's less. There's much less.
Yeah.
Wait, he was in.
But that could also just be the quantity of the amount of hours of Star Trek that there just are.
Okay, so
versus Star Wars.
The sergeant plays a Klingon in. I'm just scrolling. I'm scrolling.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, he plays Kern. No,
he's
somebody.
Robert Dupuy.
Yeah, so he's in DS9.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the Klingon who agrees to take Kern and pretend that Kern's part of his family.
Mm.
When Worf erases his memory, which I'm still like, was that a good idea?
Back to RoboCop. Back to RoboCop.
We might be done with RoboCop.
Okay, so if we are done with RoboCop, folks, then I'm going to leave you with this last question. In the Brian 0 to 5 rating system, where would you put this film? Go ahead, Adina, first.
Somewhere between 2 and 3.
Okay, that's fine. Cris?
I think probably around a 3, because I got into parts because I watched half of it on Friday, and then all I wanted to do was watch the second half. Then I waited till the next night, watched it, and then I was like, I need to decompress. So probably a 3, because it's a little too much, but still I enjoyed aspects of it.
Brian, is there? And we're not going to sing the Elton John song "Less Than Zero," so please go ahead.
With all due respect to your traveling companion, I would flush this film down the nearest toilet. I would not even give it half a star. It doesn't. Again, personal preference, folks.
That's
no
fine.
Offense to anybody out there.
No.
I will never watch this film again.
Okay.
I don't. So, okay. Do you know that your friend's probably going to send you a DVD of this?
Bob Robinson better not.
It might end up on your front. It might end up on your front door in a paper bag that's on fire, so that you have to stomp it out.
So, can I ask a quick question? Because we're talking about toilet paper and toilets and no toilet paper. What is the future? What is that? Okay, the Wesley Snipes movie. It's in the future, and apparently there's one version where the only restaurant that's still around is Taco Bell. And they have to use like these little triangles.
Demolition Man. Was that Demolition Man?
You.
Yes. And remember, there's the 3 shell joke in the film about using the bathroom. There's 3 shells. They never explain it. They never show it. They just say that there's no toilet paper. There's just 3 shells.
3 shells.
Okay, good. I couldn't remember what it was called, so I might have to look it up. That's what you made me think of.
I have a feeling I would not like the film Demolition Man either.
It's Sylvester. Is that Sylvester Stallone?
I think so. Stallone and
Stallone.
Snipes.
Yeah. It's.
That might be a topic for another day.
That's another interesting film. Actually, Demolition Man with your Johnny Cab. You got your Johnny Cab taking all over town in your Johnny Cab.
No, Johnny Cab from Total Recall.
Oh, Johnny Cab is. You're right.
Is that Total Recall? Okay, sorry, confusing the two. Oh, but I do remember. Yes, and Sandra Bullock's in it, and she says that great line: "In the future, all food is Taco Bell." So yeah. You haven't asked me where I stand.
Oh, where do you stand?
Okay, I have fond memories of seeing this movie in the 80s, and so I'm giving it a 4. Okay,
nice. That's good.
I give it a 4. It's not. No, I could see if you trim this movie down, it still might be good. Brian, again, someone has to,
I love you, man. I respect your opinion.
It's all opinions. It's all and remember, I saw it live in the 80s, and this was like a cool movie when it came out. It was a cool movie. So,
and I'll say this. Even though it's a very violent scene, full props to the bad guys for not they actually just went and shot him. Like when they had the chance, they said they're going to shoot him. They shot him. They didn't talk. They didn't let him get away. So I appreciate they were like, let's just get this done, even though it's horrible.
All right. Well, with that in mind, folks, I'm going to say this, and that brings us to the end of another action-packed edition of the Big Sci-Fi Podcast. Be sure to obey all city laws, or RoboCop might be knocking at your front door. And to Michael, who recommended this film, and I hope you are going to listen to this podcast.
We love you, Michael. I just want you to hear me say that. If this is your
favorite movie, you have every right and every reason to enjoy it, because everyone is entitled to their opinion. There are no wrong opinions. There is only science fiction, which we all truly do love, and Star Trek and Star Wars. There you go. Then I'd like to once again thank Michael for his recommendation of the film. Be like Mikey. If you have a film or TV show or book you'd like us to discuss, please make those suggestions to our email address at thebigscifipodcast@gmail.com. post a recommendation on Facebook or Instagram pages. Please follow us at that wonderful group of people known as Trek Geeks website, where you can listen to us and many other talented podcasters as well. And as always, we thank you for your support. We love to discuss sci-fi, and we hope you enjoy these discussions as well. And to close, I leave you with these thoughts. Keep watching the skies. Live long and prosper.